The story of Suikoden. In this game, you play as Tir McDohl. The game starts with Tir and his father, JR McDohl, one of the 5 great generals, waiting for an audience with Barbarossa, the emperor of the Scarlet Moon Empire. Barbarossa tells Teo that there were some troubling activities in the north, so he asks Teo to guard the northern border. After talking with the emperor, Tir will also start working as an imperial guard starting tomorrow, so he introduces himself first to his boss Kraze. When Tir and Teo return home, Gremio, one of Teo's servants, greets them. The other servants are Pan and Cleo. There's also Tir's best friend Ted, an orphan Teo adopted. Ted asks Tir about the Emperor and Windy, the court magician. Ted also wants to tell Tir something, and asks him to keep it a secret. But before he can say it, Gremio calls them for supper, so Ted says he'll tell him next time. The next day, Tir, accompanied by Ted, Gremio, Pan, and Cleo, goes to Kraze to report for duty. Tir's first assignment is to go to the Magician's Island to meet Leknot the Seer. Leknot was commissioned to look into the stars, and Tir's job is to bring the result to Kraze. Kraze has called a dragon knight named Futch, and his dragon Black to get Tir to the Magician's Island. The party rides on Black, and they arrive at the island. They go inside, while Futch waits outside. On the way, the party met Luke, Leknot's pupil. He tests the party's strength by summoning a golem with his wind rune, which the party easily defeats. Luke guides the party to Leknot's place. When Leknot hands the astral conclusion to Tir, she notices something about Tir. She says that he's destined to carry a great burden, and have to make painful choices in the future. But she also says that the future is not unchainable and that his destiny is in his own hands. After getting the astral conclusion, the party goes back and delivers it to Kraze. Kraze explains Tir's next job. This time, Tir must go to a town called Rockland, and tell the military commander there that their taxes are overdue. Tir is also accompanied by Kanan, another Kraze's subordinate. In Rockland, military commander Grady tells them the reason the town couldn't pay the tax is due to bandits often plundering the town. He asks them to capture the bandits on Mountain Sifu, so the party goes there. However, before they reach the bandits' hideout, they meet a very strong monster. The party tries to escape, but Ted says he has a plan, and he faces the monster alone. Ted uses a magic rune and instantly defeats the monster. Everyone is surprised and asks Ted how he did it, but Ted says he can't tell them now. Secretly, Kanan wonders if this is what Kraze was talking about. The party continues to the bandits' hideout, and they face Varkas and Sidonia, the leaders of the bandits, and captures them. They return to Rockland, where Grady congratulates them and imprisons Varkas and Sidonia. When the party returns to Gregminster, Kanan says he'll report to Kraze and tell the party to go home, except for Ted. At home, Tir and others have finished dinner, but Ted hasn't come back. Tir goes downstairs and finds Ted collapsed in front of the door. Upon Ted waking up, Gremio asks him what happened. The scene turns black, and we're shown a flashback of what just happened. Kanan bought Ted to meet Windy, and it seems Ted and Windy know each other. It turns out Ted is actually the bearer of a cursed rune, the Soul Eater, and he has been running from Windy, who has wanted his rune for 300 years. The Soul Eater rune is one of the 27 true runes. True runes are more powerful than regular runes, and they stop the bearer from aging. Back to the story, Windy demanded Ted hand over the Soul Eater to her. With no other option, Ted unleashed his rune, even though it hurt him too. After the flashback, Ted falls unconscious again. Pan suggests they should inform the Imperial Guard, but Cleo says they should wait until Ted wakes up again. Sometime later, Ted hasn't woken up yet, so Pan goes out to buy medicine. After Pan leaves, Ted wakes up. Ted says he won't be able to get away with his wounds, so he begs Tir to take the Soul Eater rune, and not let the rune fall into Winda's hand. Tir accepts, and Ted transfers the rune to Tir. Suddenly, there's a loud sound in front of the house. Kraze and the Imperial Guards barged into the house, along with Pan. Pan has informed the guards where Ted is. Ted comes out and turns himself while asking Tir to run, while Kraze isn't aware that the rune is not with Ted anymore. Tir, Gremio, and Cleo run away, but the gate is blocked by Imperials, so they go to the inn. The innkeeper, Marie, let them hide in her inn. The next day, Tir bumps into Imperial Guards. The guards get suspicious of Tir, but luckily a man intervenes, and he gets Tir, Gremio, and Cleo out. The man is Victor. He knows about Tir, so he proposes a deal with him. Victor will help Tir escape from Gregminster, and Tir has to meet someone. After that, they manage to get out of Gregminster by bribing the gatekeeper. The party heads to Lennonkamp. When they arrive, Victor leaves the party to make some arrangement. Tir, Gremio, and Cleo wait for Victor at the inn, but before Victor comes, Imperial Guards come in the middle of the night. While Gremio panics, Suddenly a voice calls them. The voice comes from behind the clock. There's a secret passage below the clock. A mysterious woman urges them to hurry into the passage. She introduces herself as Odessa Silverberg, the leader of the Liberation Army. Together with Odessa are Victor, Flick, Humphrey, and Sanchez. It turns out that Odessa is the person Victor wanted Tir to meet. Victor says that Tir will be a great asset if he joins the Liberation Army, but Tir refuses. When Tir is about to leave, he finds a man collapsed on the stairs. The man is a bandit from Mountain Sifu. He asks the Liberation Army to help Varkas and Sidonia, who are being strung and starved to death by Grady. Tir, Gremio, and Cleo feel responsible, so they, along with Victor, volunteer to save Varkas and Sidonia. They arrive at Rockland, and Victor distracts the guard by burning Gratis' mansion. The party sneaks into the mansion and frees Varkas and Sidonia. As a token of gratitude, Varkas promises to help Odessa whenever she needs it. The party returns to the hideout. Just as Tir is about to report, Odessa shows Tir the Fire Spear blueprint, and she wants Tir to deliver the blueprint to the messenger from the Liberation Army secret factory. Gremio angrily says that they are members of the Imperial Army, and he pulls Tir away. Odessa asks them if they still want to go back after witnessing the Empire's atrocities. Tir chooses to go his own way by joining the Liberation Army. Gremio is shocked, but he relents after Cleo says she follows wherever Tir goes and that her job is to protect Tir. With that, Tir travels to Srati with Odessa. To reach Srati, they have to pass through Mountain Tigerwolf. On the way, they stopped by an innkeeper, Ledin. He suggests the party should rest at his inn tonight and continue their journey tomorrow. Since everyone is tired, they agree to Ledin's suggestion. The party drinks the tea Ledin served, and it turns out the tea is drugged, and all of them fall asleep. After Ledin takes their money, his boss, Kessler, arrives. Kessler recognizes Odessa and immediately demands that Ledin make the antidote. Kessler and Ledin apologize to Odessa and let the party stay at the inn for free. The next morning, the party continues their way to Srati. After arriving at Srati, the party waits for the messenger at the inn. At midnight, Tir wakes up and chats with Odessa. Odessa feels unworthy of the hope people place in her, and sometimes she wants to run away. Odessa says she feels compassion when she's with Tir. She also notices that Tir has eyes that can draw people to him. During their conversation, the messenger, Cage, comes and takes the blueprint. The next day, the party returns to Lennencamp. However, when they arrive at the inn, they find the innkeeper wounded. The innkeeper says that the Imperial guards have found the secret hideout. Odessa rushes to the hideout, while the party follows. After fighting some Imperials, they hear Odessa's scream. Odessa is fatally wounded while protecting a child. Odessa knows she doesn't live for long, so she makes two requests. First, she wants Tir to take her earring and give it to a fellow named Matthew in Seika town. Second, Odessa asks Tir to throw her body into a stream, because if people know she's dead, they'll lose hope. As the party does so at Odessa's request, Victor bids her farewell. After that, the party decides to go to Seika, but they must pass through the fortress of Quaba first. At Quaba, they attempt to pass using fake names, but one of the guards is suspicious of Tir and demands to see Tir's face. But Gremio's impromptu act manages to distract the guards. In Guide, the general in charge of Quaba, orders his men to let the party pass. The party continues to Seika, and they find Matthew. Gremio says they're here to honor Odessa's last request, and he gives Odessa's earring to Matthew. Realizing that Odessa is dead, Matthew laments that Odessa chose to fight the Empire and calls her a fool. Matthew can't accept the earring and tells the party to leave. When the party leaves, Imperials come to Matthew's house. Under the order of Qasim Hazel, Matthew has to return to duty in the Imperial Army. Matthew refuses, so the Imperials take a child hostage to force him. The party intervenes and defeats the Imperials. When Tir talks to Matthew again, Matthew reveals that Odessa was his sister, and she said to him that a powerful man who doesn't use his power is a coward. Matthew admits he's a coward because he doesn't want to see war again. But after what just happened, he realizes that being a coward won't change the world, so from now on he'll fight in Odessa's stead. Matthew tells Tir to keep the earring, and explains that Tir is a born leader, so Tir should become the new leader of the Liberation Army. Tir accepts and Matthew proclaims Tir as the new leader. The Liberation Army needs to recruit more people for their cause, but first, they need a headquarters. Matthew tells Tir there's an abandoned castle in Lake Turan that will be perfect for their headquarters. The party goes to Kaku to search for a boat to Turan Castle. The townspeople say the castle has become a den of monsters, and nobody but Tai-Ho dares to go there. While the party searches for Tai-Ho, they meet Camille, a debt collector, who has been pursuing Gremio. She accompanies the party until Gremio pays the debt. Taiho agrees to take the party to Tehran Castle only if Tir wins a gamble against him. Tir wins, and Taiho accompanies the party into the castle. The party ventures deep into the heart of the castle, and after the party defeats the zombie dragon, the fog around the castle disappears. Now that the Liberation Army has a headquarters, Matthew congratulates Tir, and he designates the day as the new Liberation Army's founding day. Leknot appears, and she gifts Tir the stone tablet of promise and Luke. The next step is to recruit more people into the Liberation Army. Matthew advises Tir to recruit a man named Lepant who lives in Kin. Tir goes there to meet Lepant, but Lepant's butler, Giovanni, says his master is busy, and he doesn't know when his master will be available. A man named Krin knows the party wants to meet Lepant. He tells the party that Lepant doesn't want to be involved with people who defy the Empire. To make Lepant come out, Krin suggests they steal Lepant's sword, Kairinji. With Krin's help, the party manages to infiltrate Lepant's mansion and steal the Kairinji. The party and Krin go back to the inn. Krin tries to betray them, but the party sees through his trick. Lepant barges into the inn, and the party faces him. Tir explains that Matthew recommended recruiting Lepant into the Liberation Army. While Lepant would like to help, he can't because he wants to protect his family. Suddenly, Giovanni comes, reporting that Aline, Lepant's wife, has been taken away by the new military general. Lepant immediately goes to save his wife, while the party helps him. It turns out the new military general is Kraze. Kraze calls on Pan to capture the party. Pan says he never regrets his decision that day, but his heart aches, and he decides he will follow his heart. Pan betrays Kraze and attacks him. Tir may choose to kill Kraze or to spare him. Lepant, Aline, and Pan decide to join the Liberation Army. Back at the headquarters, the party meets Varkas and Sidonia. They heard some rumors about Tir, and they decided to return the favor by joining the Liberation Army. Varkas asks where Odessa is. Matthew tells him that Odessa is on a mission, and Tir is the temporary leader while Odessa is away. Matthew suggests they should hold a banquet to welcome their new friends. During the banquet, an assassin attacks Tir. Fortunately, others notice the commotion. The assassin warns Tir that Windy is ready to destroy him, and then the assassin escapes. The next day, Tir finds an elf collapsed in front of the castle. The elf, Kirkus, explains that General Kwanda Rossman is planning to exterminate the elves, so he comes to seek the Liberation Army's help. Currently, the Liberation Army is too small to fight against the Imperials, so Matthew suggests a reconnaissance team should gather intelligence first. Tir and Gremio will go to the village of the elves. The village of the elves lies beyond the great forest. The forest is under a spell. Only elves know the way through. After traversing the great forest, the party arrives at Kobold Village, but the village is empty. A kobold named Chromimi appears, and he says humans have taken away the kobolds, and the kobolds are sick. Kirkus says they should hurry to the village of the elves. The elves might know what happened to the kobolds. At the village of the elves, a woman named Valeria tries to warn the elves about Kwanda's plan, but the village chief doesn't believe her and locks her up. Kirkus brings the party to meet the village chief. The chief scolds Kirkus for leaving the village without permission and for bringing humans into the village. He orders his men to arrest Kirkus and the party. In the jail, the party talks to Valeria, and she explains that Kwanda has a powerful weapon called the Burning Mirror, which he will use to destroy the elves. Sylvina comes. She believes Kirkus, and she frees the party. Kirkus has an idea. They should go to the dwarf village to ask for help. The party asks the dwarf chief if he knows about the Burning Mirror. The chief says it is one of the dwarf treasures. Valeria says that Kwanda has the blueprint, but the chief doesn't believe that humans could break into the dwarves' vault. So he challenges the party. If they can steal the running water route from the vault, he'll believe them. The party goes to the vault and successfully gets the running water route. The dwarf chief finally believes their story. According to the dwarf chief, the Burning Mirror can be destroyed by the fire-end cannon, and the chief will build one for Tir right away. The party goes back to the village of the elves to deliver the news, but midway, they see a burning inferno in the direction of the village. The party hurries to the village, but they're too late. The village has burned down. Kirkus despairs that all of their efforts were in vain, but Gremio tells Kirkus to never abandon hope, and suggests they should return to the headquarters. At Kobold Village, the party runs into Chromimi, who's being chased by Imperials. Surrounded and outnumbered, Valeria offers to turn herself if the Imperials spare the others. However, after Valeria gives in, the Imperials attack the party. Fortunately, Matthew comes along with the Liberation Army, so the Imperials hastily retreat. Sylvina runs and hugs Kirkus. She was rescued by Stallion. After Tir left the castle, Humphrey and Sanchez arrived at the headquarters with the survivors of the old Liberation Army. Now the Liberation Army has enough manpower to fight Kwanda's forces. The Liberation Army battles Kwanda's forces, and the Liberation Army wins. Kwanda retreats into his castle, and attempts to use the burning mirror, but the mirror is destroyed before it can be used. Tir and his party storm the castle, where they corner Kwanda. Kwanda engages in a duel with Tir, and Tir is victorious. After being defeated, Kwanda's black rune is destroyed. Kirkus and Chromimi seek revenge, but they are puzzled by Kwanda's sudden change. Kwanda explains that he was given a black rune by Windy, and through the rune, Windy manipulates Kwanda. Tir asks Kwanda to join the Liberation Army, and Kwanda accepts after realizing the Emperor he swore loyalty to has changed. Matthew congratulates Tir on the Liberation Army's first victory, and the kobolds, elves, and dwarfs united under Tir's cause. 3 months later, Flick arrives at the headquarters, and he asks where Odessa is. Matthew reveals to Flick, Humphrey, and Sanchez that Odessa was killed during the attack on the Lenin camp hideout. Odessa requested to keep her death a secret so that the Liberation Army wouldn't fall apart. But now that the Liberation Army has been rebuilt, it's no longer necessary to keep it a secret. Flick is shocked and furious. He refuses to accept her as the leader, and he leaves with his men. Tir and Victor go to Kaku to talk to Flick, and Victor apologizes because he failed to protect Odessa. Flick has calmed down, and he apologizes for losing sight of what is important due to anger. Though Flick still doesn't accept her as leader, he offers Tir to work together. Flick says that Milik has been suppressing the Liberation Army in his domain, and many were captured. Flick suggests they should rescue their comrades, and liberate Milik's domain. Matthew agrees. With Flick's men, the Liberation Army should be able to fight Milik's forces. The Liberation Army attacks the fortress of Garn and takes over the fortress easily. Though Matthew warns not to carelessly attack, Flick rallies to continue attacking. The Liberation Army marches to Scarletisha Castle, but before they can get close, they are nearly wiped out by poisonous pollen from Milik's flower. Tir, Gremio, Victor, and Flick go into Milik's domain as a reconnaissance team. After talking with people from nearby towns, the party learns about Liukin, a famous doctor who lived in seclusion, but to reach his place, they need a boat that could go against rapid currents. At time, the party recruits Jen and Kaimandal to make the boat they need. Using the machine Kaimandal made, the boat is able to pass through the rapid currents without trouble. The party reaches Liukin's hermitage, but Milik comes riding a dragon and takes Liukin to imprison him at Sonier prison. The party goes back to Matthew for advice. Matthew advises Tir to recruit a counterfighter named Kimberly, and a scrivener named Tesla, both of whom live in Anti. The party recruits Kimberly and Tesla, and they make forged paper so Tir can enter Sonier prison. The party manages to fool the guard with the forged paper, and they free Liukin. However, when the party almost gets out, Milik traps them, and releases man-eating spores from a bottle. Gremio sacrifices himself by closing the door after others get out of the room. Despite Tir and Victor's pleas, Gremio refuses to open the door. Gremio apologizes that he couldn't protect Tir anymore, and he's proud of Tir. Later, the spores have disappeared, and Matthew rescues the party. Before leaving, Tir mourns Gremio. Back at the headquarters, Liukin has finished making the antitoxin, and Matthew advises Tir to attack Scarletisha Castle. With the poisonous pollen neutralized, the Liberation Army defeats Milik's forces. Tir, Victor, and Flick go into the castle to burn the flower. As they burn the flower, Milik comes and tries to stop them. Milik's hand catch fire, and his black rune melts. With the black rune gone, Milik comes to his senses. Victor, Pan, and Cleo want to avenge Gremio, but Tir stops them since Milik isn't at fault. Like Kwanda, he was manipulated by Windy. Flick finally accepts Tir as leader. Milik wants to join the Liberation Army because he wants to free the Emperor from Windy's manipulation, and Tir accepts him. Suddenly, Stallion comes to report that the Imperial Army led by Teo is advancing toward the castle. The Liberation Army quickly retreats. Back at headquarters, Kasumi, a ninja from Rakaku, comes here after her village has fallen to Teo's forces, and she joins the Liberation Army. Jen tells Tir that Teo's forces are near. Matthew suggests they engage Teo's army in a skirmish to test their strength. During the battle, Teo's armored cavalry army completely dominates the battle. The Liberation Army takes heavy casualties while Teo's army is unscathed. Matthew orders all forces to retreat while Teo is pursuing them. Pan offers to stay behind and hold the enemy so Tir can escape. Pan refuses to let Teo pass, so Teo challenges Pan to a duel. After a hard-fought duel, Pan wins, and Teo orders his troops to retreat. At the headquarters, everyone is at a loss, and Matthew tells Tir he should rest. Midnight. Leknot wakes up Tir and encourages him to continue fighting. Leknot tells Tir about herself, She and Wendy are survivors of the clan of the Gate. Wendy has the Gate rune, one of the 27 true runes, but she wants the Soul Eater for more power, so she can get her revenge. Like Not says only Tir could stop Wendy. The next day, Flick has an idea of how to overcome Tia's cavalry, the fire spears. To get to the secret factory, Tir has to go north, but the water to the north is blocked by currents. Fortunately, Jen and K-Mandel have just finished making a new high-speed boat. With Tai-Ho as the pilot, the party goes north and arrives at the secret factory. At the secret factory entrance, Tir finds Kessler and Ledin talking to a woman named Ronnie Bell. Ledin and Kessler remember Tir as one of the people staying at the inn with Odessa. Hearing Odessa's name, Ronnie learns that Tir is the new leader of the Liberation Army, and she brings him to meet Mose. Inside the factory, Mose has prepared the fire spears, but they need a lot of boats to transport them to Tehran Castle. Fortunately, Tai-Ho has a friend in Kirov named Kunto who could provide the boats for them. Tai-Ho persuades Kunto to help the Liberation Army, and Kunto agrees to lend his boats. Equipped with fire spears, the Liberation Army engages Tia's forces again. The fire spears effectively destroy Tia's cavalry, and the Liberation Army wins the battle. Matthew tells Teo to surrender, but Teo refuses, and he challenges Tir to a duel. Tir defeats his father, and Teo falls down, dying. In his last moments, Teo tells Tir that he gives a blessing to Tir's choice to fight for what he believes, and he orders his subordinates, Ellen and Grenseal, to join the Liberation Army. Teo is happy that his son has surpassed him. Teo dies in Tir's arms, and the Soul Eater takes Tia's soul. Following Tia's defeat, many rebellions start throughout the land, so the Empire gathers its soldiers to quell them. According to Kasumis intelligence, Imperial soldiers had pulled out of the Lorimar region. The Liberation Army decides to attack Lorimar Fortress. However, they find the fort empty. Fearing this might be a trap, Matthew tells Tir to scout the area first. Tir, accompanied by Victor and Cleo, go to the warriors' village, and they find a young couple, Hicks and Tengar, arguing. Tengar's father, Zorak, reprimands Tengar for not obeying him. He also mentions someone named Necklord. Hearing the name Necklord, Victor suddenly becomes angry, and he demands Zorak tell him about Necklord. Hicks recognizes Tir as the Liberation Army leader. Zorak welcomes the party, and he tells them to come to his house. Zorak explains that Necklord came here about 3 months ago as the general of the Imperials. Necklord is a vampire who could raise the dead as zombies. He demanded the warriors' village send Tengar to his castle. That night, the party stays at Zorak's house. Victor tells Tir that Necklord has destroyed his hometown and turned the villagers into zombies. The next morning, Necklord comes to the warriors' village to take Tengar. The party and the villagers attack Necklord, but nobody can hurt him, and Necklord defeats all of them. Hicks tries to protect Tengar, but Tengar turns herself if Necklord won't hurt the villagers. Hicks promises he will save Tengar as she is taken away by Necklord. Necklord can't be defeated with ordinary weapons, so Victor asks Zorak if he knows of a weapon that could kill vampires. Zorak advises the party to go to the Temple of Klon, which is said to hide a secret. With no other clue, the party goes to the temple. In the temple, the party meet a priest named Fukian. He tells them they'll find what they seek inside the cave of the past. The party explores the cave, and they find a sword. When Victor approaches it, the sword speaks and teleports the party to an unknown village. They meet a boy who resembles Ted. The boy even share the same name. The boy's grandpa is the village chief. He asks if the party was sent by that woman. When he learns that the party has no idea who he meant, he orders them to leave the village. Wendy and Necklord come to the village to take the Soul Eater from the chief. The chief denies that he has the Soul Eater. Suddenly, the village bursts into flames. The chief uses the Soul Eater to get away from Wendy. In the hidden room behind the chief's house, the chief transfers the Soul Eater to his grandson, and he warns Ted to never unleash the room. The chief requests the party take Ted and run while he acts as a decoy. The party runs away, but they are stopped by Uber. Before Uber can attack, Necklord appears, reporting that Wendy wants him. Uber and Necklord leave. Cleo concludes that the boy must be the Ted they know, so they are in the past. Victor sees a light from where they came before, so they go into the light and find themselves in the cave again. The party comes back to where the sword is. This time the sword calls Victor. The Star Dragon sword decides to help Victor slay Necklord. The party goes back to Warriors Village, and they find Zorak and some villagers preparing themselves to march to Necklord's castle. Necklord has sent a wedding invitation to Zorak. Arriving at Necklord's castle, Necklord welcomes her as his honored guest. The wedding starts at sunset, so the party must reach the top of the castle before then. Hicks comes and begs her to take him along so he can fulfill his promise to save Tengar. Zorak is moved by Hicks' words, and blesses Hicks as a true warrior. The party manages to reach the top before sunset. Victor and Hicks draw their swords, and the Star Dragon's sword destroys Necklord's magical protection, allowing the party to defeat him. The Star Dragon's sword reveals he is the Night Rune transformed, thus, vampires are powerless against him. Victor kills Necklord, and Tengar thanks Hicks for rescuing her. Zorak is grateful for Tir's assistance, and he pledges to help the Liberation Army. Victor leaves to deliver the news that his revenge is over to his village, but he promises Tir he'll be back. Despite the Liberation Army's growing numbers, the Imperial forces still outnumber them, so they need to gather more allies. Humphrey says he's a friend of Joshua, the commander of the Dragon Knights. The Dragon Knights are a neutral party in this war, so Tir has to meet Joshua to convince him to ally with the Liberation Army. Tir, Humphrey, and Flick go to the entrance of the Dragon Knights' domain, but the sentry forbids anyone to enter. Flick says something must have happened, and they should go to Antai to collect some information. At Antai, the party sees a noble named Vincent and an owner arguing. Flick interrupts them, and Vincent says he's in a hurry to meet Joshua, so he leaves. The party follows Vincent, who's denied entry. Fortunately, he has known the area since childhood, so he tells the party there's a hidden entrance. Entering from the hidden entrance, the party finds the dragons sleeping inside. The party are found by Milia, a dragon knight. She mistakenly thinks of them as thieves. Fortunately, Futch sees Tir and explains it to Milia, since their secret is already revealed. Milia and Futch go back to report to Joshua about Tir's arrival. Tir and Humphrey ask Joshua to allies with the Liberation Army. Joshua explains that their dragons fell asleep and couldn't wake up, so the Dragon Knights are powerless. Joshua has called many doctors to cure the dragons, but none have succeeded. Joshua heard of the famous Dr. Liukin, but the man he sent couldn't find Liukin. Tir brings Liukin to examine the dragons. Liukin diagnoses that the dragons aren't sick but have been poisoned with sleeping poison. To make the cure, Liukin needs 3 ingredients. The first ingredient is the moonlight weed that grows in Seek Valley. The only dragon who isn't asleep is Milius and Futch's dragon, so Milia takes the party to Seek Valley with her dragon. In the deepest area of Seek Valley, the party finds the moonlight weed. Wendy appears, and she summons Ted. Ted asks Tir to return the Soul Eater, but Tir refuses to give it back. Through the Soul Eater, Ted is able to communicate with Tir. Ted reveals that Wendy is controlling his body, but being near the Soul Eater has given him enough strength to resist Wendy's control. As the Soul Eater's former bearer, Ted commands the rune to take his soul. The Soul Eater takes Ted's soul. Wendy desperately attempts to take the Soul Eater by force, but she fails. Furious, Wendy leaves. After Ted's parting words, Milia takes the moonlight weed, and the party returns to Liukin. The second ingredient is the Black Dragon Orchid, and Futch has already flew alone to retrieve it. The Black Dragon Orchid can only be found in Gregminster Palace's garden. Futch finds the orchid, but Barbarossa caught him in the act. Futch explains that he needs it to cure the dragons. Hearing Futch's reason, Barbarossa let him go. Wendy appears just as Futch rides Black. Futch flies away, but Wendy blasts Black with magic, causing Futch and Black to fall. Futch awakens at the Dragon Knight's fortress, and Liukin tells him he has finished making the antidote, and soon the dragons will awaken. Futch asks Liukin what the third ingredient is. Joshua tells him it was a dragon's liver, and they took it from Black. Milia explains that they did it because Black was already dead when they found him. Joshua pledges an alliance with the Liberation Army. He also has a request for Humphrey. Since Futch has lost Black, he has to leave as per the Dragon Knight's law, so Joshua asks Humphrey to take care of Futch. Tir returns to headquarters and finds Kryn and Kasumi arguing about a man who might be a spy. They captured a man who came to the castle, but he refused to speak. When Tir meets the mysterious man, he finally speaks. Taggart explains that Qasim Hazel has begun pressuring the rebels in the north. Taggart's master, Warren, is a wealthy and influential man. He sympathizes with the rebels, so he harbored many fugitives in his mansion. Hence, Qasim's forces surrounded his house. Victor, who happened to be at Warren's house at that time, was captured along with Warren. Matthew says they should rescue Victor and Warren, but the Liberation Army troops still lack proper military experience, so he'll arrange a drill tomorrow. Secretly, Matthew tells Tir there's a spy among the army, so he asks permission to oversee tomorrow's drill. The next day, Matthew says they will attack the northern checkpoint, surprising everyone. The guards at the northern checkpoint are caught off guard. The commander of the guards, Griffith, tries to stall until reinforcement come, but Matthew sees through the trick. Griffith agrees to surrender if Matthew spares his soldier's life. Matthew orders Lepant and Humphrey to act as decoys by attacking nearby fortresses. While Griffith pretends to have captured Matthew, and brought him to Moravia Castle. Tir, Kasumi, and Kryn disguise themselves as Griffith's soldiers and sneak into the castle to free Warren and Victor. Matthew's plan succeeds, and the party frees Warren and Victor. Meanwhile, Matthew faces Kasim. A soldier reports to Kasim that the Liberation Army has surrounded the castle. Kasim isn't worried because once the rest of his forces return, the Liberation Army will have no chance of winning. However, Matthew already anticipated this, and soon another soldier reports that Kasim's forces have been ambushed by the Joustin army. Matthew reveals that he secretly contacted the neighboring city-state of Joustin. Kasim is enraged that Matthew is willing to sell the land to enemies, but Matthew says the Liberation Army only let them occupy the land temporarily. Matthew suggests Kasim should surrender. Milik comes and convinces Kasim that the Emperor has changed, and that it is his duty to help the Emperor mend his wrongs. Kasim surrenders and joins the Liberation Army. With Kasim's domain liberated, the only one left is Gregminster. To reach Gregminster, they have to go through Quaba or Chassarazade. Lepant suggests they attack Quaba since, to attack Chassarazade, they'll need a lot of boats. However, Matthew has a plan for that. Using Milius Dragon, Matthew prepared 500 boats made out of ice within a day. With the ice boats, the Liberation Army is able to attack Chassarazade and defeat Sonya's forces. Matthew plans to burn down the fort, but they have to close the floodgate inside the fort first. Tir and Victor go into the fort and close the floodgate. As they almost leave, Sonya stops them, and she asks Tir why he betrays the Empire and his father. Before Tir can answer, the flames light up and burn the fort. Sonya interprets this as Tir's answer, and she attacks Tir. The party defeats Sonya. In despair, Sonya attempts to jump into the fire, but Victor stops her. Outside, Matthew is heavily injured, and Flick furiously asks Sanchez why he lit the flames before receiving orders. Sanchez reveals that he's been an Imperial spy all this time. Shocked, Flick asks Sanchez if he's behind the raid at the Lenin camp hideout, and Sanchez admits Odessa's death was because of him. His time with the Liberation Army made him doubt himself, but in the end, he chose to be loyal to the Emperor. Flick almost executes Sanchez, but he's stopped by Matthew. Matthew says if the troops know that Sanchez was a spy, their morale will drop, so they have to keep Sanchez's betrayal secret. Despite his injuries, Matthew urges Tir to prepare the army to attack Gregminster. With Chassarazade having fallen into the Liberation Army, the path to Gregminster is open. Matthew says it's time to attack Gregminster. Despite Liukin's advice, Matthew insists that he has to go to the battlefield. Matthew gathers all of the Liberation Army troops to rally them for the final battle. Leknat appears, and she tells Tir that Windy wants vengeance against the entire world. Many years ago, the clan of the Gate was powerful, but they were massacred because people feared the clan's power. Windy and Leknat managed to escape by using the Gate rune. The Gate rune is actually two runes, the front rune and the back rune. Windy has the front, while Leknat has the back. Now that all 108 stars of destiny have gathered, Leknat says the Liberation Army will win this war. Victor says she's wrong since one of them is not here anymore. Leknat tells everyone to remember Gremio, and she uses the Gate rune to bring Gremio back. The Liberation Army marches toward Gregminster, and they find Gregminster is guarded by hordes of monsters. Those monsters were summoned by Windy. With Leknat's Gate rune, she sends some of the monsters back to their original dimension, but the sheer number of monsters is too much for Leknat. Joshua helps by lending his dragon rune power to Leknat, and all the monsters are sent back successfully. Uber is still confident that the Imperials still have an advantage even without the monsters, but the Liberation Army manages to overcome the odds and defeat the Imperials. Defeated, Uber says this is the end of the country as he leaves. Tir, Victor, and Flick march to Gregminster Palace. On the bridge to the palace, they meet Ain Guide. Though Victor doesn't want to harm him, but Ain refuses to let the party pass, forcing the party to fight him. The party defeats him, and Ain dies. The party enters the palace, and they fight through many Imperial soldiers. Finally, they confront Barbarossa in the palace garden. Barbarossa says that the garden is the only thing left of his empire, and he will fight to protect it. Using the Dragon King sword, Barbarossa transforms into a three-headed golden hydra. Nevertheless, the party is able to defeat Barbarossa after a long fight. The great generals come, and they try to convince Barbarossa that he was deceived by Windy. Windy appears, and she mocks Barbarossa for losing. Windy tries to take the Soul Eater, but the souls of Odessa, Gremio, Teo, and Ted reject her. Windy is devastated that the Soul Eater rejects her. Barbarossa grabs Windy, telling her it's enough. Barbarossa reveals that Windy never controls him because the Sovereign Rune on his sword protect him from all magic. Barbarossa takes a step back and says that he loved Windy, but Wendy doesn't believe him. Barbarossa says that he wants to erase her sadness. However, it's a mistake that cost him his empire. Barbarossa asks Tir what kind of land he will create. Then he jumps together with Wendy from the balcony. Suddenly, the palace starts falling apart. The party immediately runs, but they are halted by remnants of the Imperials, who seek to avenge Barbarossa. Victor and Flick tell Tir to run away while they hold off the Imperials. Outside, everyone cheers that they win. Inside a tent, Matthew hears the cheers outside. He asks Liukin if they win, to which Liukin answers yes. Matthew explains that he despises war, even though he became a military strategist. He wonders if he did the right thing, and maybe he should just stay at the village. Liukin tries to answer, but he realizes that Matthew has passed away. The screen turns black, and it shows what all of the 108 stars of destiny do after the war is over. In the epilogue, Tir and Gremio leave Gregminster in the middle of the night to live as solitary wanderers like Ted did before.